are live at both the places at the same time. Hello everyone. Hello, all our Insta users. And hello, all the people who are watching us on our Facebook page, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. Nandaji, if you can just check the connection of your headphones with the phone because it is echoing.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, the
Let me
connectivity is.
check. Just tell me once that is my voice echoing now again, Nandaji?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right, then that's great. So, hello everyone, and welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays, episode number 24, presented by Educate to Elevate, a mission where two globally renowned coaches, Nanda Botadkar and Sheikh Uzma Jamal, are here to help the young leaders with their coaching and training and transform them into a magnet of success. And in that mission, here we are. This is the season two, and today is the second last episode of the season two. It's really making me emotional and overwhelmed today. And in this episode, we have tried to bring in so many different people to encourage our young brigade to follow their passion. And then we also, because of the public demand, tried getting all these topics, which are so important for somebody to become a great leader, somebody to be able to work on their personality and truly transform themselves into a magnet of success. And in that, we took this topic today because this is something I think since the beginning of our lives, when we start understanding things, this particular emotion is there which is surrounding us. Nandaji, you have to still check. There is echo happening. That's one of your headphones is not connected.
Give me a moment.
Yes. So the emotion that we are going to talk today about is guilt. All of us feel guilt. And guilt is something that can be positive for us also and can be negative for us. And today we are literally going to dissect this emotion because Nandaji and I both have this niche of emotional fitness and emotional well being. And we help our clients to work on their emotions and make their emotions as their superpower. So, Nandaji, over to you. What do you feel about this topic? How to overcome guilt?
Yes, Uzma, this particular topic on guilt and overcoming it, first and foremost, it's so important to understand this is an acquired emotion. We learn this emotion, and then this starts happening to us in different aspects, right? From when we are children to when we become teenagers to when we start, working. And in certain cultures, the whole culture is based on sentiments, emotions, and what you call emotional blackmailing or making the person feel guilty. Yes, it is
Absolutely.
very important for us to overcome guilt because what really is the positive value of guilt in our lives? The positive value of guilt in our life is to say, oops, I made a mistake, but there is another chance. I can rectify my mistake and I can go ahead, isn't it? Or it's like, I got to push myself and make sure I finish on time so that later on, then I don't end up feeling guilty. So these are a few of the positive things. And yes, as we talk about the various things that happen because of guilt, we will share as to how we can overcome it also and give various tips to overcome it. One of
True.
the things, Uzma, I have noticed is that everybody is action oriented. The corporate lifestyle has made everybody so, action oriented that the minute you're not taking action, you start feeling you're wasting or whiling your time away. Even when
Yes,
people
yes.
go to vacations, It has to be planned. How many activities they're going to do, how many places they're going to visit. Everything has to be action based, Only then would the person feel, oh, I have made productive use of my time. So
Yes,
it is very important. I think we will come to the tips later. First, let's talk about the various aspects that happen so people connect to it and feel, huh, this is happening to me. This is where I start feeling guilty. One, of course, is
true.
the natural aspect where you do something which does not match your value system or your belief system, and you're going against that and you're doing something. So the natural guilt is there. Now, natural guilt is that immediately draws your attention to, oh, this is not correct for me or the society or the person or it's against my morals, which is great. But it's this festering that goes on, letting that guilt eat you, eat you, eat you up. That is when it starts becoming toxic and it starts becoming not healthy for you. Now, there are people who also feel guilty because, yaar, duniya mein itna bhook hai. Now, the other day, somebody told me that, people are celebrating 75th anniversary of this Independence Day. But there is so much of, still issues and problems and all that. I said the two cannot be equated. One is a
Absolutely.
national, celebration, and this is an ongoing thing towards which people are going to be working. So there are people who feel guilt about anything. नहीं कैसे कर सकते, how can we do that? There are so many people going hungry. There are so many people who are homeless. So there are some people who feel guilty about just about anything. अरे इसकी शादी क्यों नहीं हुई अभी तक? Oh, why this person has not as yet got married? Why, like in the corporates, they're so choosy about people. So they have guilt about so many things. You know, so there are different kinds of guilt. We need to know and understand where is it that we fit in. Are we the ones who are turning our natural guilt into toxic guilt? Or are we the ones who are feeling guilty about just about anything in lives and just adding to our stress and our baggage? I'd like you to
Right.
share a couple of things or incidences that have happened so that people can actually connect to what we are sharing, and then we can go on to giving them tips towards the latter aspect of the session.
Thank you so much, Coach. In fact, this point that you raised, that understanding actually what kind of guilt you are experiencing is very important. So, first one that you told about the natural guilt, of course, it's a positive thing, and we must experience it because that's where we can, the ethics and the morals work. So, it's like a self check, like a self corrector. And the second one, which you were telling, Nandaji, I think I resonate with it so much. And it's kind of called as a survivor guilt. So a lot of people during COVID also felt that, especially in the second COVID, when people were trying to feel that gratitude that they are hale and hearty and everything, but seeing so many deaths around, they felt guilty feeling happy for themselves. So that's kind of a survival guilt. Then there is a guilt which is actually the toxic guilt, the third one, which is basically which is going to be the focus of this discussion. That once you feel guilty and that guilt is actually gnawing you literally, like a vulture gnaws on the meat. So it's slowly and slowly gnawing you and actually hampering your mental health and even in fact your physical health because of it, and you completely lose your self confidence and your own respect for your own self. So that's the toxic kind of guilt which is there. And then number fourth, which is quite interesting, and we would be touching upon that also in this session today, because I feel that's something which a lot of people experience, is the guilt which is done by other people. They manipulate and make us guilt ridden, or as we call it, they take us on a guilt trip, which perhaps I think a lot of families thrive on, is that particular kind of guilt. And you will find that guilt even in the professional world happening. So first of all, I think whenever you experience this feeling of guilt, try and understand which guilt actually it is that you are experiencing. If it's a natural one, good, it's right. and then we can work over how to, let go of that guilt. But if it's the other ones, it's alarming, and you need to understand how to work on it. So I feel, first of all, um, Nandaji, what I feel is that as an emotional fitness coach, which we often tell our clients also, that anything that's happening, once we attach a particular perspective to that incident, to a behavior of a person, or the kind of emotion we attach to that particular thing, is the outcome that we experience on our own. So, most of the time, when something happens, there can be two people. Like, for example, if there is a mother, she has two kids, or maybe three kids, and she's in the hospital. Now, the mother says to all the three kids that, you people are not taking care of me enough, and you don't come and visit me so often. You don't love me. Now, she's trying to get everybody on a guilt trip, all the three siblings. Now, the first sibling feels, oh my God, I'm not taking care of my mother enough, and I'm not a good, son or daughter. This is not correct. I should, visit her more often. The second sibling starts feeling irritated that I don't know what's wrong with my mother. Every week I'm coming and meeting her. Then also she's doing like this. I mean, can't she see my efforts? So then there comes a lot of resentment. And the third one feels that, okay, I'm giving time to her. I think there are some more constructive ways where, my mother can spend her time and become more social. And, there can be some other ways where I can help her with the treatment, and that so that it expedites. Now the incident is same, the words used by the mother is same, but all three of them have taken it in a very different way. They have attached a different kind of emotion to that particular incident. The first one attached guilt, and completely that person shattered her own effort throughout the life as a daughter or a son, that whatever she or he has done, and she feels that, she's not a good daughter. The second one has brewed up resentment, and the third one has actually thought and understood what's the root cause, why my mother is feeling like this, and actually has come up with a solution. So I feel the very first thing the person everybody should understand is, it's your own perspective how you turn any particular incident or the words of the people that you hear in your own way. So you need to analyze and understand what feelings are you attaching, or are these the correct feelings or not. So this is something I think as the foundation to start with, because if it is an unnecessary thing for which you are feeling guilt, is only because you have attached that meaning to that particular incident. What do you feel about it, Nandaji?
I completely agree, Uzma, because it is so important to understand this. We think that, by feeling guilty, like we talked about the natural guilt, it's important because it keeps us on track. But like we already mentioned, that if it is not checked, it can start heading towards becoming toxic guilt. And let us
True.
become aware today, all the viewers and people who are joining us or will listen to this later. Guilt leads to feelings of shame, and slowly this leads to feelings of isolation. So many nurses who were working in the COVID times, when they could not cope up with the gravity and the numbers that were coming to the hospital in the first wave, they just felt that so guilty at not being able to do much for them, for the patients who came, and they just went into the space of guilt. So many came online, they cried, they broke down, and slowly they just resigned from their jobs, and they went into a
Yeah,
space of isolation, taking themselves into depression. So if your you know guilt is not checked at the time where it needs to get checked, you'll only start going spiraling south. Lack of
true.
sleep, lack of focus, lack of concentration are just among the milder aspects that happen. But even something like OCD or even something like bipolar, which are more serious repercussions of mental health, can happen if you're going through this immense guilt. We
True.
think by feeling guilty, we will propel ourselves to kind of go ahead and, just make sure that we are achieving everything. But the way it affects our focus and concentration, it really becomes very difficult to be able to make your time very productive.
So
Talking
true.
about productiveness, uh, reminded me of this lady I'd earlier mentioned about how everybody's so action oriented. So this is one of the shows that's happening on Netflix about matchmaking, and this the lady who's a matchmaker sends this girl some proposal. She's in her late 30s and she feels she's late for marriage. So she doesn't apparently like a guy very much out of the choices that she was given. Two choices of one she does. She has already not liked that guy. Now the only the second last option is left, and she has to go to meet him. So she's asking the matchmaker, "Do you think it is productive use of time?" So that lady says, "You cannot sit and decide a human being by just looking at his picture. It could be a wrong angle. It could be that person is not photogenic, but that is not the entire person."
So
So
true.
the to lead their lives, also to find a life partner, also person feels, is that productive use of time? Means I will be wasting my time, already feeling guilty. Next was when she had to say that I don't like this guy, does not match the image I have in my mind for my partner. She says, I feel very guilty to share. I'm feeling very bad, very guilty to share this. He was a great guy, but so
Yeah.
we do not know where and how this guilt will creep up. And this has been, deeply ingrained into us by our
True.
culture, at times our religion. If you go to see, a lot of our young growing up years were about right and wrong. No, don't do this. No, this is wrong. See, bad girl, you did this. This has
Mm.
become like a classical conditioning, the good and bad. So much
Yes.
so people use it even for dogs. If a dog tries to take food or something out of turn, or when they're training the dog, they use this good and bad thing. You say bad dog, and the dog will suddenly go back and shrink. That,
Right.
oh, I'm not measuring up. So how this is a conditioned or learned emotion is very, very amazing to see, and the way it can catch us and the way it can manipulate us. I think
So true.
you definitely must share some of the things that we were discussing about manipulative guilt. So people, connect better to stories and incidences and anecdotes. So I'm sure. So over to you, coach.
So Nandaji, in fact, this was such a beautiful example that you gave, and the manipulation part is, I feel, if we see from the parents' perspective, it's from their side, it's harmless because they feel that they are doing this to correct the behavior of their kid. But then that constant nagging and checking and making the person feel so bad about certain things the kid has done, that shapes up the personality of a person in such a way that the person becomes a sorry, 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 ma'am, sorry, sir person. I was watching, I do not say that that particular person is actually somebody like that, but I was watching Khatro Ke Khiladi, and one of the contestants in it kept saying sorry to everything while she was doing the stunts, to the animals, even the photos which were there of the participants, and she had to do the wall climbing, and to even those pictures, if she mistakenly had hit her shoe or something, and everybody was laughing, saying, "Why are you saying sorry to everything?" She was saying sorry to the cockroaches, she was saying sorry to the crocodile. So it got me thinking that why is she saying so much of sorry? Why is she apologizing so much? Had she been conditioned in a way where she was, every time she was doing something wrong, so the parent said that, okay, say sorry, this is wrong. Perhaps that became her conditioning. And also, I mean, she is one of those stars who actually came out about her sexuality. She openly, shared a poem on a public platform where she said that she's asexual. So that, like, I connected the dots. I felt that she must have had a lot of struggle coming out and sharing all these things. And on the other hand, if we see बहुत छोटी छोटी बातें होती है नंदा जी, we see in our mothers also, these are so small lines, but these are some of the guilt trips that our family also gives us, like uh, मैंने इतनी मेहनत से ये खाना बनाया, अब तू खाएगा नहीं क्या? And then suddenly, even if we are full till here, or if we are on a diet, we would be like, yeah, chalo, theek hai, mama de do, ab aapne itni mehnat se banaya hai to. So in that family, to it happens so harmlessly that it's like, we literally, the line that I use, we thrive on guilt, making, taking each other on guilt trip. And then professionally, if you see, I mean, I had experienced it myself, and there have been a lot of clients of mine, in the name of being productive, in the name of being a performer, they had these toxic bosses who would very subtly make them feel that, when you are 100% dedicated to the work, you're a good employee. And in case you try to have a work life balance, there would be some kind of indirect subtle guilt which will be done. I mean, even I experienced it somewhere in my professional life when um, I had I was asked to do double, shifts, because the evening time was something which did not have that strong feature for some time. Though I was told in an indirect way that no, 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 we don't want you to take those extra pains, but then I was given this guilt also. Things are not working out. If you can stay back and all, and I did feel guilty. I felt, despite the fact I should have known how to maintain my professional boundaries. See, these are my times and I should stay by this. This is what I'm paid for. But I would feel guilty. Oh my God, it's my responsibility. And I would stay for longer hours. And, you know, these are certain things which we really need to understand and recognize. What is the intention of the other person, whether the person is actually making us feel guilty because of the hurt feelings, genuine hurt feelings, or is it actually some kind of manipulation which is happening to make us feel guilty? Because if it is manipulation and we have that self awareness, then there is no need of feeling bad about it. Why would you do yourself down or beat yourself down for something which is coming out of the malice intentions of somebody else? What do you feel, Anati, about this?
I completely agree with this, especially professionally. One must, these are among the tips for where you don't feel guilty. While at work, never feel guilty to take your day off. If it is it's something that you deserve, it's your weekly off or something, don't let anybody get you into that space of guilt so that you have to give that time. The money may be given for the additional time, but remember, your creativity will definitely go down. Never feel
True,
guilty if you have to leave early, because if you work the earlier day, the day before or that week before, you worked extra time, and today you want to leave early, please make sure you leave early without feeling guilty about it.
true,
Lot of times, a lot of women, when they have spoken to us about some of the issues in the corporate world, both Uzma ma'am and we have been very aware of this aspect, is that a lot of girls go through times of, sexual harassment, or being, given compliments in a way which is sexually oriented. At times like this, if you need to report that person to the HR, let us not shy away from it. It's
true,
okay, because your preservation, your self, dignity is more important than thinking what will happen, what will that person think of me, and feel guilty that, oh, that person will lose my job. If a person is professional, then it's important that person acts professionally and not behaves in a way wherein, you know, he is causing mental harm to a co-employee, to a colleague. That is so very important. And also, if you are working as a team in any setup, work setup, we're always working for excellence. So if somebody's idea is not good enough, I've shared this multiple times on practically every show of Thoughtful Thursdays, that Uzma and me, despite our age differences or despite our, experience, not that she's any less experienced, but we never shy away letting this be a, like a stopper for us. Oh, she's older to me. Oh, she's younger to me. How will she feel? Or what will, Nandaji feel? No. If it's a bad idea, we have made sure we've shared with each other. And we've given an option. Think we can do it better this way.
I mean, we
And
have
this,
done this, Nandaji, even for the topics of Thoughtful Thursday. So many times we do the
absolutely,
brainstorming. I say, no, this won't
absolutely,
work. I feel that, freedom that I can say to you,
absolutely.
Nandaji, change the topic. Yeah,
Very, very true. And if you want excellence, if you want to make sure that you are doing what you're doing, should turn out to the best, we should be able to say it without any guilt. Guys, I don't think this is a great idea. Let's, think about something else. Both of us have been doing that. And which is why, whether or not people join us while the show is on, we get so many messages that they have watched the replay. We have so
yes.
many positive, remarks and positive compliments that people give us. So never hesitate to tell somebody that something is wrong or bad, or it can be reworked. So these are some
Yes.
very important tips while we're working in a work setup. We have to make sure that we are doing whatever it is that we have to. Also, let us not feel guilty about competing for that promotion, because that is why we are there in that competitive world. We cannot sit back and say, okay, let somebody else succeed. I don't want to succeed. So it's very important that these aspects must be taken care of while we are in the workplace and not feel guilty about it. What do you feel, Uzma?
I agree, Nandaji, and all these points that you are giving, and especially for, the professional world, what are the things that we must not feel guilty about? It's really important to put it out there and normalize, because we do feel guilty about the basic things that are our rights, to even say to our employers that, this is something that we need, this is something that is our right, and we feel, no, 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 this, the guilt comes in. It's
Yeah,
because, uh, I think in India we are made to be like that, the submissive thing and all. Yes, Nanda, do you want to say something?
I was just going to share that if we remember, the word is whistleblower. This is
Yeah,
another thing we must never, hold ourselves back or feel guilty. If we remember the first time the COVID news started spreading out, they called this guy who was a journalist the whistleblower. He did not think that, oh, I'm putting my country down, or I'm talking about, something that is kind of, it's a disease and
so
that's
true.
harming
Hmm.
so many people. He went and he blew the whistle because he felt that more than the country at that point of time, loyalty to the country, more important was the loyalty to larger humanity. So
So
if
true.
in a company space also, or at your workplace also, if there is something which is not conducive, or the right thing that is happening, which isn't, uh, what do you say, good for the company, it's important that we just kind of, if you have to blow the whistle on a person who is doing frauds in accounts or who's doing something that is not the right correct thing, it's okay to blow the whistle. This was one more aspect that I
Absolutely.
wanted to share. Please continue.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of, that is why social entrepreneurship is coming these days, no, Nandaji? Remember, we took the session for the young leaders of Dubai and US and Canada. It was all
Yes,
about social
yes,
entrepreneurship, right? So,
absolutely.
hello, hello. There are two people who have sent hello, one on YouTube and one on Insta. So, hello to you guys. And I feel, Nandaji, I like, there are a few questions I feel, if I want to share those with the audience, because that's something I think should be the first step when it comes to handling the guilt part is there. And that part, even, later on when you people see it, you can jot down those questions, and that tool is really going to be helpful for you in the future as well. So I think whenever you experience this feeling of guilt, the very first question that you should ask yourself is, what happened to cause this feeling of guilt? What exactly happened? Because sometimes it could be, happening in generic thing. So first of all, you need to boil down and understand what is there. And then what specific aspect of that particular incident do I feel guilty about? Now, within that entire incident that has happened, what is that specific thing that is making me guilty? Then, did I do really something wrong, or is it my perception that I have done something wrong? This is the third question, which, as I said, the way we associate our feelings and perceive the incident is different. So, asking yourself this question, that did I do it genuinely something wrong, or is it just the perspective? And then, is someone else making me feel guilty? That is going to be the game changer when you ask this question and try to understand that is it truly me, or is it somebody else's manipulation that is happening? Then is it in my control to fix this situation? Now, because if the situation is in a way where you really cannot change something, like for example, if I remember I was too young and our school sports day was going on, and I don't know, I was angry about something or what it was. So there was this guy at the back of me, and I don't know, I felt that he was touching me from the back in the wrong way, or he was pushing me or something. I just turned back and gave him a tight slap, not realizing he was a young kid and might have been jostled from the back, or it must have. I mean, he was of an age which we cannot consider that he would have done something intentionally, in a wrong way. So I slapped him, then I turned, and then I felt really guilty of what I did. I did say sorry to him. He made a very bad face. I mean, now why the hell is he saying sorry to me? But it happened like years ago, maybe 20, 25 years ago, and I still feel guilty about it. Now I need to ask myself, question myself, is there something that I can do to fix this guilt? No, I cannot. So I have to learn to let go that, right? Because I don't even know where that person, I don't even remember his face, I don't even know his name, anything about it. So if I keep feeling guilty about that years and years back of experience, it is going to really hamper me. It's not in my control to fix it. And then, you know, could your fixing really help? Because you need to also understand this thing, that is my unnecessary meddling in the situation is going to make it worse, or is it actually going to be helpful? So sometimes, you have to really understand, am I needed to give my suggestion? Am I needed to be, like, usually in terms of friends, I remember one of my friends was going through a bad time, and I know she was doing something which was wrong, but I did realize that even if I tell her right now, she would not understand. It has to be her own journey. It has to be that she is going to fall and learn it her way, which she did eventually. And she came back to me, and I said, I knew that you were wrong, but I did not tell you because I knew you will not understand it at that time. And she said, yes, I understand that, Uzma. And so you have to really understand that, can your fixing really help the situation or not, whether you need to really get involved or not. So I feel these are a few basic questions to start with, Nanaji. If we ask these questions the moment we start experiencing this emotion, we'll get a lot of clarity, and then we can really work upon how to, overcome or how to fix this particular feeling or emotion that we are expressing. What do you feel about it?
I completely agree with you, Uzma. And a very beautiful story came to my mind. There are two monks in two different monasteries where they have decided to dedicate their life to becoming monks and the spiritual path.
Nandaji, you have frozen on StreamYard. If you can check, yeah, you are there on Insta.
Yeah, okay, I'm
Yeah, you
back.
have come and you have come back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one monastery had the way of, telling everybody that make them feel exceptionally guilty and make them feel bad about everything that they did. And that was the factor that they used to make sure they kept the people on track. And the other monastery gave the, kind of for this that we are all divine. We may at times, fall, we may at times succumb, but we are divine creatures made by the divinity. And just realizing that we are wrong, we got to bounce back. Now, the two of these guys, One night, because they're young, they get frustrated with all the meditations and that very, kind of a rigid lifestyle they have to live. They steal out of their monasteries and go out in the night. Both of them go out, they have a drink, and they even have some random session with some women and something, and they come back. And when the next morning they wake up to come back, the guy who has grown on the guilt, he gets
Mm,
so devastated, so devastated. Oh God, just for a moment of weakness, I fell into this trap and I've gone so far away from the path. I can never go back. I can never show my face. I can never do anything. His guilt ate him up, and then he kind of just ended up becoming a street thug, joined a street
mm,
gang. The other guy, when he woke up, he says, "Ah, what was I craving so much? This was not so pleasurable or so satisfying as I was thinking it out to be. Just one of those things,
mm,
big deal. At least now I know the bad value of this, so let me go back to my good value and start practicing my meditations deeper and have more control over my senses." And he goes back
mm.
and he ends up becoming one of the kind of Dalai Lamas or one of the senior, monks in their
Months.
particular monastery. So it was like, oh my God, how, you are what it is that makes you grow with what you're growing up decides your future. You grow up with guilt, and the guilt plays on you, and you never know where you'll end up. And yet you see a positive aspect and say, oh, I faltered, let me just get back to track. This really is what guilt, the value of guilt is. It's only there to remind you that, oops, this was wrong, or we got to take a double check or a recheck and bounce back. Anything that is
Yes.
more than this, any guilt that is more than this is something that is taking you towards toxicity. And we have to start becoming aware of it.
True, true. This was such a beautiful story, Nandaji. I mean, really, really nice. In fact, this reminded me of in school days. I had these friends in my school, wherein the father made both the girls sit with him, and he made them taste alcohol. And he said that I'm making you taste alcohol only because that when you grow up you start going to parties. If somebody mixes this in your drink, you know the taste and you can actually understand. On the other hand, if we see in other families, this would become such a big issue that at young age trying alcohol, and so much of guilt will be there. So I really, your story really made me feel about that. And in this entire story, I felt at the end of the day, what is important is, hey, RJ Pratik is here from Lucknow Radio Mirchi. Hey, Nanda, hello. Hey,
Hi.
Pratik, what's up?
So good to
So
have you
nice
here,
to see
guys.
you. Yes, it is. So what
भाई
I
ये
was saying,
टॉपिक ही
Nanda ji,
ये टॉपिक ही ऐसा
हाँ,
है, हर एक को, there is interest for everybody because everybody feels guilty about something or the other. Please
I
continue.
know, I know. So I feel, learning to forgive yourself is actually very important. We really need to forgive ourselves, because if we keep having this so much high expectations from our own behavior, that I have to be Mr. Right or Miss Right. नहीं भैया, मैंने तो एक गलती भी कर दी, मैंने गलती कैसे कर दी? When you have too much of this perfection of your own behavior की expectations, with you, that is where when you commit a mistake and it comes, you get overwhelmed with guilt. So, first of all, you have to understand that you're not perfect. You will commit mistakes, and then you have to forgive yourself there. And also, checking yourself on the point, the moment you start feeling guilty, feel guilty about that particular specific behavior of yours rather than attaching it to your own whole persona. So, for example, if I suppose had an altercation with my mother, now, I should definitely feel guilty about it. Absolutely, I did wrong. She is my mother. I should respect her and talk to her in a particular way. Now, if I feel guilty about that particular behavior that I did on that particular day, It's okay. I should go forward, make amends, apologize, and then it should be all fine. But on the other hand, if I start saying, "Oh, I'm such an awful person, I'm such an awful daughter, what have I done?" and I transform that guilt from the behavior to my overall personality, and I start blaming myself as a human being, and I start demeaning myself. That is where that particular natural guilt, as the term you shared, Nandaji, will turn into toxic, guilt. So I feel that is one thing, two things which, like, I said I would like to rephrase that: understanding that it's your behavior, associating that guilt with that and not with your persona. And secondly, once you understand that, understand you're not perfect and learn to forgive yourself is very, very important. What do you feel about it?
I agree. It is so important to identify what is really happening and be okay with what is there and how you can bounce back. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. You shared about, you know, if you had to have an altercation with your mother, and then if you said something to her, you need to feel guilty. Yes, that's a natural guilt that can happen in our cultures where, we have to speak to our parents in a particular way, we have to speak to our teachers in a particular way. So it's deeply ingrained into us. And yet, there are cultures where they are you know, children are allowed to call their teachers by first name, and they're allowed to tell their parents where they are wrong, because what may be true in today's generation's world may be something that parents are not aware of. So a lot
True.
of things are also culturally based. So I think basically, let's not compare ourselves with others. Let us not feel shy or guilty of asking for help from somebody. And my very strong suggestion, request, pleading, whatever you may call it, is to parents who may be watching that let's not compare our kids to anybody. This, you don't know where it can lead them. And if anybody does better than them, they are going to start feeling guilty. And that kind of a guilt is only going to induce jealousy. They are
Yes.
going to start feeling that, oh, I am not good enough, and they're going to start feeling jealousy. And they're going to start feeling that, uh, that person is better than them. This is because when they were younger, as parents, we have compared our children to the neighbors' children, to their cousins, to their siblings, to anybody else. Let us remember every human being is programmed by birth to only move towards growth, to only move towards, doing better. All of us
So
have
true.
that potential. We may stumble, we may fall, we may have our, weekdays, but that does not make us less than anybody else. If I'm a fish and you expect me to climb the tree, boss, I can't do it. And if somebody is a
Yes.
monkey and that you're asking that person to, go down into the water and remain underwater for like life, it's not going to work. Let us appreciate every individual's skill or that potential that they have and respect them for that rather than making them feel guilty about some skill that they may or may not possess. Because we are then, if this is what we are going to do, we are going to be creating people who become people pleasers, people who are
Absolutely.
going to learn to act and behave in a particular way so that they can, play to the gallery where they can become pleasers. And we have
Yes.
been through this in our own lives. We have been people pleasers. We have lived with guilt in our lives. So we are able to share and tell you that what is it that we must move away from. It's not easy to live with guilt, you know, and if you are not able to free yourself of that guilt, you are going to go down, spiral southbound, and find it very difficult to come out of this loop. So it's very, very
True.
important that we recognize what is really happening and at every step forgive yourself. As much as
Yes.
we are open and happy to forgive others. We appreciate others and all the skills they have. Let us do that for ourselves also. Let's forgive ourselves and appreciate ourselves for being the unique, individuals that we are with our unique potentials and skills. Over to you, ma'am.
So nicely, articulated, Nandaji, this point. And to this, I wanted to add another point, which is, kind of related, is that also telling yourself, because self-talk really helps when it comes to, healing yourself from this emotion of guilt or coming out of the toxic guilt. That is making yourself realize that it's okay to have needs, because in a lot of situations the guilt comes because we kind of start feeling selfish for the basic needs that we have, especially when we are in a romantic relationship. There, if we demand some kind of attention, maybe, or maybe if we demand some personal space, then maybe there are chances the other partner may start making you feel guilty, or you yourself may start feeling guilty in that, is it right to do that? I mean, I'm in love. If I say that I need space, is it wrong? Is it showing that I'm no more in love? And so many things. Then one thought leads to another thought, leads to another thought, and all it becomes like a guilt, a huge burden of guilt on our shoulders. So there I feel it's okay to realize that yes, you may also need as a human being some time to replenish yourself, or as in a relationship it's about two people, there can be certain needs of yours which are there, which might not be being fulfilled by the other partner, and that's where the communication part comes. You tell your partner that okay, these are certain things which I feel are not happening as per what my definition of a happy relationship is. So I want to share these things with you. I'm not complaining, I'm just sharing these are certain things which I feel should be also there to make this relationship better and happier. And once you do that, I'm sure if the person is a good partner, would really appreciate and understand your effort, because any effort which is going to strengthen your bond and relationship is something should be appreciated. And on the other hand, if the person is actually making you feel worse, that how can you say that this that, that means it's a clear red flag for you to understand that this guy, if it's not, or that girl is not able to understand that these are the basic needs that you have in a relationship to feel happy and safe, that means the person is manipulating you into guilt, and it's time to say bye bye, red flag, no, this person is not for me. Because relationship, if it's the foundation of relationship becomes compromise and having that feeling, एक हिचक सी रहे आपके दिल में, मैं बोलूं ना बोलूं, if you do not feel comfortable speaking anything and everything to the person you love, or your life partner, then I think it's all futile, isn't it, Nanaji?
Absolutely. And this, I want to, at this point of time, share about something that I feel is very, very important. We hear about a lot of, young kids getting physically abused, sexually abused,
Yeah.
and they have been kept to remain silent by making them feel guilty, or, even parents telling them that you must have done something. I remember when I was a
Especially, Nandaji, I'm sorry I'm cutting you, especially if the person is from the family itself. It's
exactly.
some relative who has done this. So, you'll break that other person's marriage, the family will get ruined. So, this kind of guilt really happens.
Oh,
Please do.
yes, yes. And this is how the person who is the predator will also tell the child or the young person that, see, what is for me, they will, somebody may, at best tell me a few scoldings or bad things, but you're a girl, your whole life will get ruined. You will become the bad one, you will have a bad name. And parents also tell this to their children, that do not talk about these things openly, do not come out against that person excuse me, against that person openly, because Like you rightly said, it'll affect their name, fame, family life. They have children. But who gives anybody the right to abuse anybody else's child and then think about their own child, their own name and fame?
True.
And when children live with this kind of guilt and grow up, especially young girls, if they grow up with this kind of a guilt, they have too many problems adjusting into their normal married life. They have too many issues to have a normal sex life. And when we talk about sex life, whether or not we come from a country where talking about this is still considered a taboo, a physical intimacy is very important to have a healthy relationship between a man and a wife once they are having a married life. So let us not undermine the value of this and say, we don't need to talk about this thing. It's important to talk about it. It's important
So
to
true.
bring this out into the open so that the young girls don't feel bad or don't feel guilty. They are made to feel you are the culprit. You must have done something. How does a person react? The girl just sinks into a shell and goes away. I remember I was a young girl. I must have been not more than 6 or 7 years. And I'm talking about so many years ago, 40, 50 years ago. We had no idea about sex. We had no idea about anything. I had all brothers in the house, and I was like a complete tomboy. Going to school in a school bus, there was a guy who the school bus, whether he was an agent or a contractor, whatever, he would come on the bus and he would make sure he would pick on 4 or 5 girls and drop them the last. And for us, being such small kids, we used to enjoy the ride in the bus and running in the bus when it's empty, just having fun. And while the rest of us were running and playing around, this person would make girls sit on his lap one by one. We were too small to
Hmm.
know what he was doing. We were too small to even understand what was happening to us. And one of the girls spoke to her parents and told them that this was what was happening, and the parents were there in the school. That particular week or that particular day, it was just that girl and me in the bus. I was busy playing around, running around, jumping around, doing, cartwheels in the bus,
Hmm.
not knowing what was happening. I was called to the principal's office and the then supervisor. And please note this, I was not more than 6 or 7 years old with no idea about what is happening to my friend or what would have happened to me. I get badly slapped on the face by the supervisor of the school who said she may be enjoying this. Can you imagine the kind of guilt that was put onto me? It scarred me
At
for
such a
life.
young age.
Yes. I didn't know what I enjoyed and what was happening. And then the tight slap because you always associated, physical punishment with you being a bad girl, you having done something. It took its toll on my life for very, very many years. And when I finally went into following psychology, I realized what has happened and how this has affected me. And like this, there are so many people, so many girls who are either made to feel bad by the school or their parents or somebody else. So we have to realize that what Uzma ma'am earlier shared about how we have to differentiate about how this guilt is affecting me and what really is this guilt. Is this something
Yes.
that I have actually done, or is it something that somebody is trying to manipulate me about? And this is what is going to take away a lot of pains that we may go through. So this was a little sharing that I had to, you know, discuss or share today. Over to you.
This was such an amazing sharing, Nanda and thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing all this, because this could be an eye opener for a lot of people who are watching this live today, and even they might be able to relate to it. To be honest, let me tell you, a lot of
True,
females have
true,
experienced this, and you were lucky enough that you took up the subject psychology, so you were able to self help yourself in this particular case. And that is
correct.
actually the last point where I would really like to conclude our discussion on that. Not everybody is lucky enough to actually be a psychologist or a life coach to be able to self coach himself or herself. So for that, if you feel that you are going through certain, emotions, or there are some traumas of the past which are still there and they are affecting you, there is some past guilt that's still reflecting in your behavior, and you know that this is something that I'm not able to handle on my own, feel free to take help, speak up, and talk to anybody. You want to go to a therapist, go to a therapist. You want to go to a counselor, go to a counselor. You want to come to a life coach, come to a life coach. Whatever fits, whichever technique you feel works best for you. And Nanda ji and I, we are here. We are, you know trained licensed practitioners of NLP. Nandaji is a master NLP. So we know, and we help our clients to regulate all these emotions that they have been, accumulating inside them. So you can always take any kind of professional help, and you will see that once you are able to let go this emotion of guilt that you have, which you have been maybe suppressing or harboring inside you, will feel so light and happy, and you'll be able to see world with a very different, glasses, and you'll be happier, and your behavior with people would also be brilliant. So on that note, I think, Nandaji, let's wrap this episode today. Some last thoughts from your
Absolutely.
side.
No, like all of it you've already shared, and let us not shy away from asking for help. Let us not shy away from, reaching out and expressing what is happening, understanding why the guilt is there, and working on it accordingly. Most of it, Uzma ma'am has very beautifully explained to us as to how we must detach, excuse me, how we must detach ourselves from the guilt and become a witness and understand what kind of guilt is it really. And do not be afraid to reach out either to the person nearest to you, to your counselors, to your life coaches, or any of us. Uzma ma'am is a emotional fitness specialist. So, we can all reach out and we can at any point of time know that we are here to back you up. So wonderful
All
being
right,
here with all of
everybody.
you.
Thank you so much. See you next Thursday on the finale episode of season 2, in which we are actually thinking of an interesting topic, which I feel you all will really, benefit from. So stay tuned and see you next Thursday. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Love and